You missed some important news from the LGBTQ plus community this week. To ensure you are current, we are recapping that important news. Here's what you may have missed.
Do boycotts work for them or us? As Bud Light Trans and Equality Florida travel ban gives us a clue. Anheuser-Busch parent company AB InBev is optimistic about its future, despite calls for a Bud Light boycott following a marketing partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. While Bud Light volume declined in the U.S. over the first 3 weeks of April following the uproar, the dip represented just 1% of overall global volumes for the period. However, this raises the question of how effective are boycotts like Bud Light faces. It can be difficult to make a boycott eat into long-term sales. Boycotts on or by nonprofit organizations also fail to have the adverse effect in a longer time frame. We can consider boycotts by Equality Florida calling for no travel to Florida work. Has it really stopped the community from traveling to the States? Has the Disney versus DeSantis battle stopped the conservative community and others from watching Disney content? Despite anti-LGBTQ plus laws and discrimination, Florida has one of the largest LGBTQ plus populations in America. LGBTQ plus allies are everywhere, specifically Tampa's gay mayor, Fort Lauderdale's gay mayor, Visit Lauderdale's Richard Gray, which is the largest LGBTQ tourism organization in the world, Miami Conventions and Visitors Bureaus, Dan Rios, which is the second largest LGBTQ plus tourism organization in America, and even Disney, with more LGBTQ plus employees than any business in the world. It's very interesting because we always talk about these boycotts and people falling out and, protesting against these brands, and they seem to never work. Mm-hmm. They only get to effect on social media, but it doesn't really go to the far effect as, dipping into a large percentage of sales for these organizations. From my perspective, what I've seen so far in the quote-unquote fallout from Bud Light is that more of the LGBTQ plus community has now, opted into drinking Bud Light and supporting the brand itself. Even some of the parents of my LGBTQ plus friends, they're supporting Bud Light and they're, openly, posting about Bud Light on social media and just promoting the brand. And I think the people who are just like, they just don't want to drink it, just don't drink it. There's other beers that are out there.
Well, and the decline 1%, that really is going to be anything to affect them. I mean, come on, boycott. Listen, boycott if it makes you feel better, all right? Boycott if it makes you feel like a better human being, all right? I don't eat Chick-fil-A, okay? I refuse. I will never eat a hate sandwich. Screw you, Chick-fil-A. I'll wipe my ass with you, okay? But there's a line around the corner at the Chick-fil-A by my house every freaking day. Me not going there to get a hate sandwich does shit for them, okay? So that's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, though,
it still makes me a good person, though.
When the boycotts against Chick-fil-A first came out, it did make a difference in at least from their public relations, because they did come out and say, okay, we're going to stop giving to this and we're not going to do this. Ultimately, when we saw their financials a year or two later, they still did. But, but they at least paid lip service to our community. I remember Gay Days has never and is still not an official event at the Disney park. But, the conservatives were so bad because Disney was just letting gay people in. And this is like back in the day, 20, 30 years ago. But Disney survived. The people that embrace us generally see our boycotts work. The people that boycott out of hate, sheer hate, they usually fail. Maybe that's just karmic justice, but that's how I've seen it play out for years.
Well, and going back to Equality Florida, that decision must have not been easy for them to do. It's not an easy thing to say, hey, don't come to the state where we're at. But they were really thinking about the safety of our LGBTQ plus folks from other states.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, real quick. One thing about Ron DeSantis, when this Bud Light thing came out, he was like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do it. We can't deal with woke companies. My wife and I just like to have a Guinness. Spoiler alert, Ron. Guinness is very pro-LGBT. If you watch over the next few weeks, you're probably going to see some rainbow Guinness stuff out there. So, cheers, buddy boy.
Business boycotts fail. Drop mic. They don't work. Study after study after study has shown that. We have the attention of ants. And so as a result, they don't work because we don't pay attention to them. If we like the product, we consume the product. If we don't like the product, we wouldn't have consumed the product anyway. One of the top criticisms of boycotts is like when we watch Kid Rock, in that disgusting TikTok that he did with a basically high-powered rifle machine gun, shooting the Bud Light cans, the horrible representation of that and how that was going to dramatically affect Bud Light. Bud Light reports a 1% decline, but they've reported this week that they have completely returned to normal. So the boycott's over already, just in weeks. Mulvaney and Dylan, cute as all get out, by the way. It was a nice story that she was able to do that, and Bud Light doing a kind of a side marketing opportunity with her. And all of the boycotts, but let's boycott Bud Light because they didn't vigorously support Dylan Mulvaney. You know, it just goes back and forth like a ping pong ball, and playing a game. And often, I have seen situations where our attention span is so short that I can't help but wonder, do we use the conversations, especially in social media, of boycott as an excuse that we've done something, but we really haven't done anything?
Yeah.
I would much rather you give $25 to the National Task Force than advocate any boycott.
I would too.
Because, yes, from your seat. But at least you're taking action.
Yeah.
I would much rather you get somebody registered to vote and take them to the polls, and at the minimum, vote yourself. But boycotts don't work. No. They flatly do not work. Business boycotts do not work. And when we criticize Kid Rock for what he did, how can we not criticize ourselves for doing the exact same thing? Maybe not as repulsively as he did, but we're advocating the exact same thing. They don't work. Keep watching the only television news in the world from our LGBTQ plus community, and stay informed on everything that is important for and about our diverse LGBTQ plus community.